If you've ever played a From Software game, you've noticed these guys running around, which are just like these little phantom ghosts of other players also playing the game. I always wondered if this was like something that gets recorded in like real time, that you're seeing someone else and they can see your like phantom, but they're never really mentioned anywhere in the lore or really anywhere in the game. You just kind of see them like pop up here and there. I remember like the first time you see one, you get kind of spooked. You're like, oh, is this another player? Only to like see them disappear in a second. So as you play this game more and more, these things kind of become more and more like normal. You become really accustomed to see other people's phantoms like this. And after a while, you just start ignoring them. But the normalcy of phantoms is kind of exactly what I want this video to be about. So I'll hold that thought for just a second. Now, on a different note, but still related to this topic, do you ever encounter one of those parties that has like 3 phantoms and like a host who's a mage that has like no health because they've put everything into doing damage with spells and never getting touched? The ideal way to take out this kind of party is just to get a backstab on the host, but the likelihood of you slipping past 4 different players in order to get that critical is pretty unlikely. Now let's put it all together. What if you could appear to be like one of those aforementioned phantoms and get the drop on all hosts you invade because you look like a phantom they're so accustomed to seeing? So using a combination of the spell Hidden Body and the Untrue White Ring, you can look pretty much exactly like a lot of those phantoms. I've started calling this technique false phantoms just to give it some terminology so I don't have to keep referring to it as something like, oh, Untrue White Ring and Hidden Body technique, or anything like that. False Phantoms just is so much easier, and I'm just going to refer to it as that from here on out. So I don't quite remember where I first learned of the False Phantom strategy. It might have been on like a Reddit post to be like, oh, you can look like a see-through phantom, or like maybe like a video. I remember in the early days of Dark Souls 3, there was like Young Maestra video or something like that, where he tried to stealth on people and tried to get like these Hornet Ring backstabs, and the kind of conclusion of that video is that they never worked. He would always get like a lot of damage but not be able to finish the person off, or people would see him because Hidden Body isn't that hard to see. But with False Phantoms, it's not about being like unseen, it's about being seen and ignored. And the reason I'm doing this is because I'm really tired of fighting people around the bonfire in the Grand Archives. Like, that's literally the only reason I started doing this, just to spice it up a little bit, just to, get the drop on people, and also to let them know that I'm not really dueling them. This is an invasion. I am there just to kill them. I would like a good fight out of it, but if they want to stand around and be like, oh, I'm gonna bow to you and you're gonna pretend this is a duel while I have a 30% health advantage and the ability to summon phantoms whenever I want. And also I find it that just dueling players who aren't that great at the game or pretty new or whatever they are at this point, mostly PvEers, I find dueling them teaches you a lot of bad habits of stuff that you can rely on. So then when you do fight good players, you kind of regress and you rely on bad habits that don't work against smarter players. So I've opted to just not duel them at all. I just take them out as quickly as possible. And honestly, it's really fun to be clever and sneaky in this game. Stuff like plunge attacks and charging R2s behind doors, stuff like that is I consider to be in the same realm as this. Winning an invasion because you outsmarted or tricked your opponent, I find to be the most satisfying way to win. And I think it's part of the intention behind stacking the advantages in the host's favor. For invaders, it's no longer get good, it's more get smart, and I like that. But this game has been out for 4 years, so it's not like that's some incredible revelation. This is just a fun little tactic I like to employ on intelligence builds. Well, speaking of bonfire duels, this particular host seemed to really want his honorable duel. But, we're not doing that shit. Get your edgy Path of the Dragon squatting ass out of here. Now, we can get a little bit technical if you want with this whole False Phantoms technique. You could optimize this a lot better than I do. I just want this to kind of augment my build and be a funny little tricky tactic I can use here and there. I recorded a lot of clips of me doing False Phantoms on a lot of different parties, and this right here is the only clip in which it was a one-shot. And that has a lot to do with the fact that this is an intelligence build, and this guy is wearing the stupid mage ears. Everything kind of aligned for that to happen. Now, you could absolutely redesign this build around False Phantoms. and be a one-shot build and do stuff like use a Chaos Rapier with a super optimized build to just like annihilate everyone you manage to backstab. But the reason I don't have a build that's solely focused on being a sneaky assassin is because very often you get caught while trying to sneak up on people. And for this build, if I get caught, I just make one ring swap and I'm back to my normal setup. But if you have a glass cannon one-shot build, you can't really take any hits. You might not have a lot of stamina, you might not have a lot of health or vitality to tank a few hits like you often have to do in invasions. I'm sure there's someone out there who's made a video just where they get like non-stop backstabs on people who are unsuspecting, and you know they play lots of air horns and throw in some filthy Frank green screen memes where they're like it's time to stop, you know, stuff that's real original that's never been done before and you don't see like 4 or 5 times a video on YouTube. Anyways, some downsides to this build. Hidden body doesn't prevent you from being locked onto, or it doesn't even like decrease the range in which like players can lock onto you, which like it doesn't have to be like that one dark room in the Grand Archives kind of short, but it could be a little shorter, which would make the spell a little bit more useful. The other side of it is that you have to burn an attunement slot on a spell, which if your build uses spells, that's unfortunate. If you're like me and who never uses any spells and just uses all their FP on weapon arts, this is perfect. False Phantoms isn't purely an invader tactic. It can also be used against them, especially since hosts have a significant time gap between the time in which like the "you've been invaded" message pops up and when the invader actually finds the host. So if you're prepared, you could potentially also flip this situation on invaders, like I've done here. For some reason, a lot of invaders are like incredibly honor bound, and like I got this like sneaky backstab on the guy that was pretty cheap, let's be honest. But that's part of the game using False Phantoms. But he refuses to heal, which doesn't really make any sense to me, because I'm clearly not playing by any like honor duel rules, so I don't know why he is. They also do a lot of gun to your charges from neutral, which when you see like top tier players use the gun to your charge, it's like from point blank range where their like opponent can't really escape. But when I see it coming, it's like super easy to evade at a distance, and especially easy to punish like I do here. The last thing I'm trying to work on with False Phantoms is I have a tendency to like either get the backstab or get caught, and I immediately switch back to like the Chloranthy ring, when I should just like stick with the Hornet ring when possible, just because it's been really useful here and there. It's really useful in this situation, and you never know when you might be gifted a critical when you maybe don't deserve one.